How can you overcome fear and live a life that you really desire and want? There's a big misconception in the area of personal development or in success in general. So many people want to have achieve goals, achieve their dreams, and really live a happier life, but they miss out because they have their fears. They fear that other people will judge them, the fear of failure, the fear of any kind of fear. And it's really funny because if you think of any of the highest achievers in the world, anybody has fears. Everyone has fears, whether it's in boxing, in sport, in business, in anything. The difference between normal people and high achievers that high achievers learn how to deal with fear. And one of the best example is the great boxer Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson back in his prime, everyone was afraid of him. He was so powerful. He was a monster. He had like this dead looking eye. The killer, everyone was afraid of him. But what many people don't know that before his fights, some of his fights, he said, he admitted recently that he was afraid. In fact, I think he said in one of the instances he used to throw up before one of his fights because he was so afraid to go there. So it's not about successful people do not have fear. It's just about that successful people learn how to deal with them. And I know this also from my personal experience because I always saw myself as a guy with no talent, a guy who's worthless, a guy who's really boring, and really I was so shy. So to my own life, and I used to was so afraid of people, meeting new people, being around other people because as I said, I felt like I had no talent, I felt like I'm boring, I felt that no one is gonna like me. And I always felt like there's so much more in life than what I used to live. But I was so afraid to show myself, to express myself. Oh my god, what's gonna happen if I show up? What if I say this? What if I do that? Like I was so afraid, and it wasn't until that I understand that fear will always be here. Fear is not going to disappear. I had two choices. Choice one is facing my fears and really live a life what I really that I want and desire, or else let fear control me. And the very first thing that you have to understand, there's two types of fear. The first kind of fear is the fear of actually doing what you want, to go after your goals and dreams, because you don't go after your goals or dreams because you are that you're gonna fail. You're afraid of other people are going to judge you and all this kind of BS. The other kind of fear is the fear of missing out. Successful people have fear, but like let's say someone who is so successful like in business, he or she has fears, but the difference between them and normal people who are successful are more afraid of missing out on the life that they want and desire. So in my case, I was that type of person who had no talent, or who thought he had no talent, who thought he is boring, who thought that no one will like him if I tried to show up. And I was so afraid of people. I was so afraid of showing up and being like really just introduce myself. And I remember one day I said, hey, listen, you have two choices. Choice one is either live in shyness, live in fear, and miss out on making new friends and living a life that's fully worth living. Or choice two is facing your fear and see what is on the other side of happiness, the other side of life that you need to experience. And one of the defining moments in my own life, I had so many defining moments, but one of the defining moments that I've had in my life is when I was so in love in Japan. I'm still in love with Japan. I remember I want to make friends from Japan. I always wanted to travel to Japan to speak the language. I'm always fascinated with the Japanese culture. I mean, I love their video games. I love watching anime, reading manga, all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to meet people from Japan, but I see people back in my school from Japan. They will talk in Japanese, and I always want to introduce myself and be a friend with them. And I was so afraid to just be myself. Oh my God, what am I gonna say? You'll think I'm stupid. Like this nagging bad voice will say things like, "Hey, you're so boring. Remember that. No one's gonna like you. They don't want to listen to you. Just stop embarrassing yourself and stay where you are." And I listened to this voice for so long, but then I changed the dialogue. I shut down the negative voice and I replaced it with another voice says that I'm good enough, I'm fun, I'm enjoyable, people like me, I'm fun, I'm enjoyable, I'm sexy, I'm dynamic, and there's nothing wrong with me. I'm so great and people love me for who I am. And that moment when I changed that dialogue, I was scared, I was shaking, I was so nervous. And when I went there and meet, like, I think there were like 4 or 5 Japanese students, I don't remember the exact number, like maybe 5, maybe even 6. And I went there and say, "Hey, my name is blah blah blah, and I really love Japan, and I think you guys are speaking Japanese, right?" And from that moment, when I went there, I introduced myself, all the fears gone. The fear was replaced with excitement, with fun, with happiness, with a sense of being an achiever, with a sense of pride, you know? Because things are always bigger in our head than what they really are. You see, you know what I mean? Because when we think too much about a problem or facing our fears and we keep thinking about them, avoid facing our fears, we get paralyzed. We are paralyzed. We don't do anything about them, and they get worse and worse by time. But when you face your fears and do the thing that you hated most, or the things that's stopping you, your brain will say, "Oh, that's nothing. Was that what I was afraid of?" And your brain will learn that this is easy, this is fun, this is enjoyable. And guess what? Like, I personally now, I don't have any problem like talking to strangers like the way I used to be. I don't have any problem to introduce myself. I feel good about myself, and because that's not arrogance or anything, but my confidence comes from my experience. And the only way for me to become really confident is to have previous experience. That doesn't mean sometimes I don't get nervous or that my fear disappeared. It just means that I'm in charge of my own life. When this nagging negative voice says, "Hey, stop, don't talk to anyone, or don't stop embarrassing yourself," I learned to shut down the volume, say shut the F up, and I change the dialogue and change my thinking overall. But the idea here is not just to stop, I mean to change your thinking, think positively and things will change. No, it's to learn how to change the dialogue, the negative voice, learn that to change your thinking, then actually do it. And it's okay if you feel like you're so afraid to do what you want to do. That's very normal. As I said, all successful people, I don't care who you're talking about, they have fears. Everybody in this world. That's normal. If you don't have any fears, then there's something fundamentally wrong with you. This is my tip about overcoming fear. Is just first thing you have to do is to acknowledge that it does exist. It is here. And instead of letting fear control you, make it a motivator to actually go after what you really, really want and desire in life. And I think Nelson Mandela said it best when he said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." So it always seems impossible in your mind because your mind doesn't have any previous reference of any previous success in life, and it seems impossible. But once you take the first step, the very first step, things change for the better. So that's my mission for you. I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Talk to you later. Take care.